You gotta go fight a fire. Let these fire escape evacuate people by themselves. And you're not gonna be putting people back into a building if the fire escape was one of the main reasons why everybody was trapped on a fire escape. Meaning the ladder didn't come down or something wasn't functioning for them to self-evacuate. So it's usually there's a tragedy that's one of the main reasons why you start looking at fire escapes. Now, one of the main concerns that everybody has on a 50, 75-year-old fire escape is not really the connections outside, because you can just see those. Any layman can look at a connection, and once it's full of rust, it's evidence. When it's not full of rust, it's evidence. So it doesn't you don't need a lot of training to notice when something's got bulges, rust, corrosion, you know. But what can you see behind a wall? You can't see nothing. But there is one telltale sign. We call them rusty tears. See these rusty tears? That means something's happening inside, and the only way it can go is outside. A lot of people don't realize that a lot of buildings, this is the veneer. This is not structural. This is your siding. This is vinyl siding. This is clappers. This is wood. This guy put up brick, and usually behind the brick, it's a masonry block wall. There's actually wood structures out there that people still veneer with brick. But that tells you that the fire escape is attached into the masonry block wall behind the veneer, not in the front. So that's very important. And what happens when you have a leak in your parapet wall and it comes down in between the two bricks? What are you going to get? You're going to get this. And one of the evidence is that it's going to rust and it's going to tear out like this. Well, how can you examine that? That's what a load test is for. Right? You're supposed to load test because in case there is a weakened member, when you're going to see it during the load test. I have another question for you. I'm still trying to provide you other evidence of strength. I've opened up a few of these and I know that there's a problem and I don't want to deal with them. Here's how you eliminate this as a concern. You let sleeping dogs lie, and next to the connection, can I put in a 3/4 hole, put in a new epoxy bolt or a new through bolt plate and negate this first one? Because it's already 50, 75, 100 years old. By the time I start playing with every one, I have to have a mason come in and spend $300 to $500 per thing, opening it, cleaning, and then putting it back. And a lot of times there's a big can of worms even further deeper into that. Can I just put a new connection and mechanically fasten it back? Can I run a piece of angle 12 feet long underneath all the brackets and do epoxy bolts or through bolts on the angle and then mechanically fasten that one angle back to all the brackets and then create a unification of the supports? Can I then walk up to you and say, I don't want a load test, I've changed every fastener that you can see outside on this fire escape. We've silicone sealed every fastener with 50-year silicone. It's got a brand new paint job. And into the building, we've just duplicated all the connections because when we started the verification process, we noticed this crap and we didn't want to deal with it. Do you still want a load test?
Yes.
See, he's the guy that wants to double that. Yeah. Yes, and I still want the load test.
Well,
No,
but the issue,
usually in lieu of a load test, if you refurbish, you've satisfied the code, which says the authority having jurisdiction shall accept by load test or other evidence.
Was equal to the strength of the original. That's why we want a load test. Have that structural engineer tell me what you did.
Yeah, he will. So the structural engineer is going to come to you and tell you that all the members are in good order. Anything that was rotten or bad has been repaired, scissored, or replaced. Metal. At every connection, there is not one speck of rust in any connection, and I put a brand new fastener for you in every connection. All the old fasteners are gone on this job. The unknown into the building, we started doing some evaluations to verify the connections, and we found stuff like this. So what we did is we let this alone, and we gave you all new 3/4 through bolts with backing plates now to eliminate that as a concern into your building. This fire escape has been fully refurbished, and we're trying to satisfy you now with other evidence of strength because I don't want to charge my client another 20 grand for load testing because we've met, as the code states, other evidence of strength. This is called a certification in lieu of a load test.
how did you verify that it looks like they're tied into some steel back there? How did you verify that you went through the veneer, you might have gone into the block, but that you got back into the structural support member that it's meant to be tied to?
That's a good question. When you're getting into an old building that's 75 to 100-year-old, sometimes the block and the cement there is crap itself. So a lot of times it's a full through bolt with a backing plate on the other side.
Okay, but how?
Otherwise, you do the epoxy bolts, somebody has to verify the epoxy. In some cities like Seattle, you need to send out a guy who puts his finger in the hole and he sees you there mixing it. So A lot of times, the amount of time it takes you to have an epoxy verification process, you're like, dude, I'm drilling a hole all the way through and I'm putting this big metal plate on the inside, and then they're gonna sheet rock over it.
Okay, so you've gone inside and cut away or something,
Yes.
so you can see the
You
structural
create a
member.
sandwich. You
see
create a
that
sandwich.
connection. Okay, that answers the question.
Otherwise, if I have a good, in testing and with engineer oversight, you have the epoxy bolts verified that they are going in, and you never put one epoxy bolt. You would usually double up on epoxy bolts, but that's why when I like when we use like a 12-foot piece or a 15-foot piece of 3x3 angle, for example, and that's epoxied with 8 epoxy bolts, and then every one of those gets connected back every 4 feet back to you've unified the whole thing. So in order for it to be a collapse, everything has to rip. That's a full wall, collapse. That has nothing to do with the fire escape.
Now, the only problem is, you do it well, but when Joe Blow comes into that we don't know, and, if more and more companies start doing it, and then
Well, that's why we're trying to set a standard.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Once you know there's a standard, and there's places on the internet you can go get the standard, then
Yeah.
so step 1 is teaching you guys how to write the right violation. Step 2 is to have the same class now with vendors invited who repair, engineers and architects invited who inspect, and have them in this class. With you guys still in this class, say, hey, this is what I want, and I won't accept anything less. Otherwise, you pull out that trump card and say, guess what I'm throwing at you? Each and every one, if you don't go above and beyond to show me other evidence of strength, I'm gonna throw the trump card down, and basically, we're load testing. Collapse test or load test?
A lot of this structural stuff, at least in California, this is the building department's big deal.
Well, there's the other part.
Well,
You have
yeah.
to refer to the building department, but you're the real responsible
Yeah,
for
but
identification.
listen, we don't do structural inspections.
No, we don't, but we identify.
We
potential
identify
issues.
the
Identify it,
problem.
but
And
They
ask for
enforce,
the
when you
building
write the
department.
violation, they enforce
you're
it.
right.
Exactly.
So I wouldn't be
Because we
worried.
say, you can't put anybody on there until the building official says it's okay.
Right.
Right.
So look at all that, as you can see here, you can see the kind of rust that builds in between veneers. This is another building that we did. Look at all the rust on this, in between the veneer and the actual structure. And this was all fed by the ACs. You know those ACs on the windows that go bling,
Chirping all the
bling,
time.
bling all day long? They rotted. And in some cases in the East Coast where you get freeze and thaw, what happens is the water builds up behind it, creates a bubble, pushes the bricks out a little bit, and you get these walls going like they're all pregnant walls, all the way down. Oh, guys. That's one of our inspection holes, and then you throw the little snake in there with a little video camera. What are we looking at? See, this is actually a building in LA that we did. It was a 10-story. Thought my guy was here. It looked like he went out. Jason Lee was here. He actually performed the load test. Not only did all the work correctly, they still wanted a load test, but we had to verify certain connections. You know how many holes I had to drill in order to get a 3/4? To get my camera to fit in there and get some sort of photograph that I can use, right? Whereas if I just took that same 3/4 drill bit, which is 18 inches long, moved it 6 inches away, drilled a hole all the way through the building, put in a through bolt and a backing plate, mechanically fastened it back to the connection. Did I care about this connection that I had to destroy in order to verify that it was good? So this is like destructive verification process. So I rather, instead of trying to drill a 2.5-inch hole on one side, like I did there, we could just drill a single 3/4 hole, throw in that through bolt, put a plate, and that's called other evidence of strength. Again, we're not trying to load test, we're trying to provide you other evidence of strength because it's already in the code. NFPA says it, the fire code says it, and the International Building Code says it. Okay, this is us looking inside. What can you see? Can you see anything here? So it's very difficult for you to like peek down a hole with an examination, and say, what's inside this wall? I mean, it's all opinions. So this is what's inside a lot of buildings, these through bolts. And you have to verify that the walls are good.
It's almost like CMU stuff.
So here's that 10-story.
Beach, LA.
Jason, you remember that address in Jason Lee's one of the vendors from LA attending the class here, but what do you remember that 10-story, more or less where that 10-story was that they did the load test?
Bob Hope,
No,
Beverly Hills.
it was way before that.
You talking about 7th Street?
Was it 7th Street? 10-story. Now, these were basically turned into condos, and they basically wanted a load test because somebody was paying top dollar for the condo, and they want to make sure they can go out on these condos, which were no longer fire escapes, because they put in a new staircase inside this building. They were going to use it as a decorative balcony. So they wanted to repair it and load test it. But here's what we had to load test. We used a weight underneath. We're using a truck. It was Jason's, one of your old trucks, remember, Jay? And then we pulled up 3,000 pounds, because when you did the calculated load, we needed about 3,000 pounds. This truck weighed about 7,000, and we lifted using a load cell and a digital counter on there. It showed, and again, we load tested it with 40% of the load first, seeing that there was no deflection. Then we load tested it with 100%, seeing that there was no deflection. Documented and videotaped all the information, provided it to the structural engineer, and this is us. Actually, let me back up one. This is him lifting the rear of the truck. So we're using, a lot of times you don't have to bring the weights up 10 stories. You can put a weight on the ground and just keep lifting the weight. We use the cable. So we were load testing the top floors now and basically reading on the guy. As soon as you got to 3,000 pounds, we sat there and waited for 30 minutes. But you load test 40%, then the remaining 100%. Now, here's another load test, sandbags. And again, sandbags was using Bob Hope, correct? Now, sandbags, I think the,
Stand there pulling that with the hard hat. When it fails, where's that gonna land?
well, now you know why load testing has one issue.
Do you pay hazard pay for that?
Right. Load testing has one issue, is that how can you load test without physically, because you have to physically put the bags.
Right.
Or you have to physically be on something that's, like the camel that, the straw
Yeah.
that broke the camel's back. It's just got all kinds of issues with it on how to properly do it. So, is this a class about load testing? Or is this a class to say load testing just doesn't make any sense? And if you go through the normal cycle of maintenance, which is everything must be maintained over time, correct? Do you ever need to load test if it's constantly maintained? So if all of a sudden I reach a 25-year cycle and you're concerned about my bolts that we did the hexes 25 years ago, and now the latest greatest is triangle heads, guess what I'm going to be putting on there in 25 years to avoid the load test with you?
Triangle heads.
Triangle heads. So this is, now here's what I did in the East Coast. We had a fire escape that we're doing for Harvard, and this is on a typical building like a mansion that was then converted into either classes or a combination of offices and whatever. And I purposely left only the top floor with original hardware. And I asked Harvard to participate. I said, please, I gotta do a load test here so that I can show Cambridge the silliness of a load test and what really needs to be done so that we can have a complete fire escape examination here with no liability to anybody and no more opinions. And again, I've inspected for 15 years 375 Harvard fire escapes. So they said, let's do it, just so I can document and record it. So here's 7 guys moving sandbags around. 50 pounds.
So now we're loading onto a stair, and we're doing a concentrated load of every other tread, 200
Not just
pounds.
the platforms, staircases need to be load tested too.
Hey Tom, he's about started. You want to note that the staircase is starting, what time?
So it's a choreographed dance of measurements, timing,
Just,
and guys. And what we did is we brought all the bags to the very top, about 2,000 pounds, and then we started cascading down the fire escape all the way to the ground. And I photographed everything so that I can use it in a documentary to say, you want to see what silly load testing looks like? If one of your clients says, well, then let's just load test it. Say, great, let me send you a movie of what load testing looks like and how many men we need to bring to this party, because you're going to need water and we're going to need a place to hang, because 50-pound bags get heavy after a while. And like you said, where do you hang without getting killed? Is this a load test party or a collapse party? Yes.
You said there's two ways to do it, right? That way than the truck, right?
Right, yeah, so a couple of ways. Sandbags, water bags, so you can go put water bags that weigh 50 pounds and you start carrying water bags. Or you can create little pools. Put a pool up there, fill the pool with so much water, then take a hose, suck that hose, put it into the next pool down below, and it's all just simple, weight. You just bring it, you're moving water from the very top all the way. Or if the thing aligns correctly, like Bob Hope did, you get underneath it and you can actually put weights down below, send a cable up through the fire escape systems, and then as you lift this 4,000 pounds of sand down below, you lift it 1 inch off the ground, you're exerting 4,000 pounds up above. Should there be a collapse, it's only going to drop 1 inch. So whenever you can, you try to, and then a lot of times when you're doing multiple floors, like we did on that 7th Street one, the floors were cabled to each other. So in case there was a collapse, the floor above was cabled to the one below, so they would hold on the, so there's all this crazy stuff you want. We did it just for the fact that we wanted to do it to show that it's a silly exercise. Now, you go to Portland and you do a load test, right? Now it can start getting wacky. Because in Portland, they don't want 100 pounds per square foot, they want 200 pounds per square foot. And they don't want you to load test the fire escape in its entirety, they want you to separate the fire escape so that when you're load testing the platform, you gotta separate the stairs from it so that the load test is just on the platform. So it starts getting crazy with these interpretations of what is, and I keep saying, why are we load testing them? Why don't we just refurbish them till the point that it gets that you have to replace them? Because guess what's coming in 20 years? You heard it here first. You got lead encrusted fire escapes that are dropping lead dust into your building. Every building in the United States is almost lead-free and asbestos-free inside. And if you have any lead left on your building inside or outside, your insurance company is going to charge you 10 times the going rate. So these lead-encrusted fire escapes are going to go through what cycle in 20 years? Oh, by the way, when we take a piece of lead fire escape now, we throw it in a dumpster. As soon as I have to wrap it in plastic, ship it to Utah, guess what's going to happen to the cost of maintaining fire escapes? Guess what you guys are, guess what's coming down the pipe for everybody? Brand new galvanized fire escapes. So this is only a temporary problem, because as soon as the lead issue becomes a bigger issue for everybody and the insurance company kicks in. And by the way, this is laws and codes and requirements, but as soon as the 600 or 800 insurance companies nationwide find out that they're insuring buildings with non-certified fire escapes on their building, what do you think is going to happen to all these owners of multiple dwellings that, you guys wrote several violations and they've ignored you for 2.5 years, and they get a 30-day letter from their insurance company? Guess what's going to happen?
You're gonna get rich.
I'd love to get rich, but there's only one problem. One man in a boat can't bring in all the salmon. I mean, I got a net while everybody's fishing pole, but But the point is that there's an industry out there that's coming back to handle something. You guys have to get prepared for it, but now you have to prepare the vendors and the engineers and the painters to do it the right way. Otherwise, you're gonna get scraping paints. But what do you pull out of your back pocket? As soon as you have any doubt in your mind?
Load test.
Why?
Because I can.
What codes? what codes have it?
Walko, because I read.
And then what about the OSHA? So that's all you have to remember, is that it's out there. It's just, did you know it even existed out there? It does exist out there. You know what I'm saying? So now let's rapid fire. This is that case that we did with the fireman. Go ahead.
On your collapse test,
Thanks for that word, man.
Is there a way do you guys have any safety harness for your guys when you're up there?
Again, yeah, we do. It all depends. We don't want to do load tests because there's no place to hide, because it's literally the straw that breaks the camel's back. You just don't know. I mean, do you bring in cherry pickers? So you're basically taking 50-pound bags from a cherry picker and like, it's so there's no way. The fire escapes just don't help you in any way. So we don't want to force a load test, but all of a sudden, when there's a load test, we have to create all kinds of safety concerns, you know, to see how do we keep our men safe. And here's the best part. You don't load test every fire escape. It must pass a confidence test. So that fire escape must have 100% of its bolts, not 100%. All connection issues have been addressed and repaired. The remaining rivets or square head bolts are in good to excellent condition, and the wall connections have been verified. Now we're load testing something that we feel very, very confident. It's not that crazy collapse test that you've now coined the phrase. Yes?
One comment, I don't think anybody in here doubts anything you've said probably about the need for maintaining fire escapes or anything like that. But unless you can provide it, I've yet to find anything in the International Fire Code or the International Building Code that says anything about a required load test specifically. There are provisions, that you must maintain equipment and structures in the building code, section 116.1, and maybe there's others too.
Will you check on the testing and maintenance? That's usually.
I did. It's not in there.
Then they've removed it. Then they've further removed it. So
it's probably an amendment at a local level, but the load test is specific. Being specific about the load test is not in there.
in the IBC or
Either National Building Code or the National.
Some of the stuff isn't necessarily in the model code, it's in the reference standard, or it could be in state regulation or state statutory law. You haven't exhausted everything, just because it's not in the model code language doesn't mean it's not there.
No, but if you're quoting it, all suggestion is find the exact spot, so that, because the bottom line is in whatever state you're in or locality, these guys are gonna need to know a section that they can cite, not something that they would like to cite.
Right.
They're gonna need specifics, but I mean, there are ways to get, to remedy, to get it fixed and all that. There's code sections that take care of that, but all I was pointing out is the load test specifically.
Correct.
Saying that I could do that.
I went out to
what a load test is, what is the definition of a load test, what does it mean?
Yeah.
That's not in here now.
Yeah, it's not.
It could
It's
be
not
in state
anywhere.
law somewhere, but it's
Some
not
of
here.
some of the things we do, for instance, a wet chemical extinguishing system, the manufacturers say you don't have to do a puff test. NFPA says, but you can call for it. So a lot of the stuff isn't necessarily prescriptively called out for, but you can still do it. And you can use nationally recognized standards if it happens to be like what he's been showing. There's a lot of general.
If you go to the California one, I looked at it yesterday. Your 2012. It's on the 1030. It talks the testing and maintenance. You know what it talks about? It talks about that two-way communication. That's it.
Yeah, that's not it.
I know, but there's nothing else. There's nothing else
That is
related.
not the code section that talks about load tests.
But Lee, I think you could ask for, provide information that the fire escape will take the live loads that are intended to be imposed upon it.
That's under how you build it. So
Yeah.
that's already in how you build it.
Wait, let me help my compadre from ICC out, not that he really needs it, but he's making the point, for me, the point that I raised. You, sir, are quoting supposedly verbatim International Fire Code, International Building Code, as stating these things.
Correct. I'm using
Okay?
the New Jersey
and that is factually incorrect.
Wait, Galen, hold on. This guy is an international guy. You got to read it for what he's saying. Don't be nitpicking locally.
And we understand that. We understand.
He's not
and
saying
it's
it's
all in the right place.
He says it right there. This is the Massachusetts code. Read it for what it says. That's what it says. Read the document. Stop jumping to. Just let him finish his class.
It doesn't say that it's the Massachusetts code.
Nothing's
It's saying
perfect in
it's
the world.
International code. And I asked him, is that the Massachusetts code? Or
You can't be
whatever?
pedantic
He
at this
says
point.
it's
We're looking at national, what he's talking nationally.
Let's go home.
No, listen, just so you know, the biggest issue we have nationwide is that there's not enough language everywhere. It happens everywhere. So I'm not here to do a code class, so I understand, but what we have here is that in the nation, you only got two paragraphs. You got a maintenance paragraph, and that basically, and an obstruction paragraph. It says don't obstruct it and keep it maintained. And every code out there basically has very little language associated with that. All we're doing right here is saying, listen, there's some there's some people, well, in the codes that I've been working with, and again, East Coast based, the International Building Code, which a lot of them are starting to get away from, so it's funny, but in their code, this is the verbatim code that I wrote in here, that's the verbatim code that says, examine, test, or certify. The New Jersey Building Code, and they're based off the International Fire Code, right? So, and again, some of the stuff is getting eliminated from the International Fire Code and the International Building Code. It's because, believe me, Firescape, the testing and maintenance it's gray. It's a gray area. Nobody knows what to do there. So that's why I'm bringing this as a point to say you got to do something about it. And a lot of times it's not to change the code. Repairs and procedures and guidelines. On your side, you guys call it an administrative rule change, right? Or something, what do you guys call it when you, on a fire department side, you guys add language to basically help clarify? What's an amendment. So you basically, locally, you basically write your amendment, so we have some language here of a, so, and if, you don't have to use my fire code amendment, go to Portland, and they did that. Go to Seattle, they did that already. So say, copy and paste. What did you write as an amendment that I can use already here? Now, on the building side, that's what we did in Massachusetts. We had a state building inspector say, hey, write this departmental procedures and guidelines. It's not code, it's an interpretation of how they interpret the what do you call it, whether it be the solar panel law or whether the insulation law or whatever. They basically says, this is how they wrote it, but we don't understand it. And like every now and then, everybody goes back to the NFPA, which basically sort of clarifies, and like you said, there's no puff test, but the NFPA says, you know what I'm saying, they generalize it a little bit better so you understand it. So the NFPA says it the best. And the reason why, if you go to Rhode Island, they use the NFPA. You go to New Hampshire, they use the NFPA. How I found the NFPA writing was, I was in a class like this, and nobody knew where in the NFPA book this language was until I was doing a class in New Hampshire, and the guy had a book that he goes, an older guy that kind of knew the book back and forth, he goes, I know exactly where it is. And so it was like a revelation that day. We opened up the NFPA side and it says, the authority having jurisdiction shall accept by load test or other evidence of strength. What's that mean? Well, we then went back and started looking at all the other codes and said, okay, here's what this code says in New Jersey, here's what this code says in Massachusetts. They're kind of all trying to say the same thing, and the key is where this is not a load test class. So even though there's nothing anywhere that describes how to load test a fire escape. There's nothing anywhere, I don't think, in any of your codes that tell you how to load test your fire ladders after they've been damaged or used in something that, you know, caused them to be damaged in any way, correct? Is it anywhere in any code how to load test, or is it the manufacturers create, or at the end the design professional creates a criteria? So there's no load test criteria, but we don't want any load test. But actually now there is load test criteria. You go to Portland, Oregon, they want 200 pounds per square foot. They want you to disassemble the fire escape so that as you load test it, it has to be independent of each other so that there's no sharing of the load. So it's starting to get just, this is not a load test class. This is a class to say, the average life cycle of every building, they refurbish something on that building. Roofs, gutters, you know, boilers, this, that, and the thing. Fire escape should have had the same thing. It hasn't. For 75 years, she's got lipstick and a paint job. She's 75 years old now. All you need to say to her is, okay, you want to spot repair it? Great, give me a load test. If you refurbish it, there is no load test. Well, who's going to determine that? Get me a very good engineer to come and speak with me. We'll have a sensible conversation. And if he convinces me that he's taken care of all the fasteners and that the metal that's left behind is in good or excellent order, original, and that the connections into the building have been dealt with, meaning he's either verified them as good through some process of opening up all the sheetrock on the inside of the building, or he's nullified it by putting in another through bolt, then guess what? I'm not going to order a load test. So that's all we teach nationwide. If you guys want to go through some of the pain, you got to call Seattle. They've gone through a lot of pain. 5 years. You want to call Portland, a lot of pain. Call New Jersey. This is 5 years that we've been doing exactly all this. It's sort of like throwing it out, come back with some problems, throw it out again, come back with some problems, because the perfect order is, the first guys that we have to fix is you guys. Write the right violation. Repair, paint, test. Don't mention treads, don't mention anything. The second order, we have to have a class just like this, You have to bring in vendors, engineers, architects, painters, and repair guys in the same class that you guys are gonna be in, like Portland, Oregon did, and we did that walk around downtown. 150 guys were in that class. Recorded, documented, and after 5 years, this will start to become a routine. Question?
So if we have a contractor for buildings, whatever, that are gonna supply CERD saying that these things are being maintained, minimum they should be Reg 4, because you said there's only 2 states that have licensing.
Right, but Reg 4 only does the latter. So it was, the last conversation I had was with Darrell, and there was another gentleman, he's no longer there. Does anybody remember the other gentleman with the mustache? But basically, the model should be just like San Francisco. Yearly ladder inspections to verify that the ladders go up and down twice. So then they have a whole checklist, great. Now in the new checklist, there's sort of a reference for the guy who's doing this ladder inspection to kind of look at the fire escape. And do you see anything out of the ordinary? That should be done, they're thinking, and that's what I was told, of going to the 5-year rule where a structural engineer's got to do the 5-year cycle like they do in San Francisco. San Francisco has a 5-year cycle by a structural, they have the yearly cycle, and here's the best. The inspection in San Francisco for the ladder inspections, anybody can do it. You can just call yourself Joe Ladder Inspector and no certification, nothing, and you can sign off on these ladder inspections. So, but in Reg 4, let me tell you what we have to do. Ready? To get a Reg 4 license, $1,000. Oh, by the way, Reg 4 is not just fire escapes. It's sprinklers, it's everything to do with fire protection. Am I correct? Is one guy here from? That's correct.
Is there,
Reg 4?
right there.
He left.
Yeah.
Oh, now let's talk about it. That Reg 4 guys took my money. No, well they have a great. They've got the best system of getting you certified. Look, $1,000, 100 questions. I got to pass with an 80. That license is only good for 3 years, and then I got to renew. I got to keep paying, and not just for fire escapes, for everything, sprinklers. You know, so that's a great model to follow. They also have. I have to go out with them and show them an inspection. And then I have to fill out the paperwork correctly. So that's what you have to do there. In Boston, I do window guards and railings, and I kind of fix fire escapes every now and then. And guess what they gave me? The right to sign off on them. So an engineer that took 8 years to sign off on things, they let the G3 guys, the ornamental ironwork guys, sign off on fire escapes. So what kind of chaos is happening in Boston? When you're judge and jury and you're carrying the gun. So there are times that, you know, if we don't get this is just a broken system. That's all it is. Just got to get, but the first ones to start writing the violations is here. Then we need to get the engineers to do their right job of inspecting, and we need oversight, we need permitting, we need a lot of things. So let me conclude. This is a fire escape that the guy fell through, the fireman fell through. I'm just going to go very quickly because I want to end the class on a timely basis. So let me conclude on this. This is how fire escapes are built, so I'm going to go very quickly through here. This just tells you how rust grows. So I don't mean to rush it, but I want to make sure you guys get out on time. So this is a fire escape where the guy fell through. He was 27 years old, was crippled because of this event. What's important about this case is that he sued the building owner directly, not because it was a job-related incident, because of negligence of the owner for not maintaining his fire escape, and he won the case. So he basically proved that the owner was negligent in maintaining a fire escape system that basically caused his injury. So it wasn't work-related, it was negligence on the owner's part. So the back door opened and the guy settled very quickly. The guy was crippled, 27 years old, meaning, you know, I think he broke 1 or 2 vertebrae or whatever, but, so basically this is how fire escapes are built. So I apologize, I'm going to just fly, you know, see, it only, a lot of fire escapes are just 8 to 12 inches deep into the masonry wall. They're not all the way through, guys. Yes, go ahead.
Cisco, are you able to share this slideshow that we can keep?
Yes, it's on the internet, every single one of these.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is being recorded, so this exact class, you'll be able to play it to anybody who didn't show up for this class.
Wait a minute, you're recording this?
I didn't sign up.
Can we get some royalties?
That's all right.
Yeah, it's only focused on me. Hey guys, in case you want to grow mold and weed, This is
It's a water gurgle.
yeah, so it's fire escape. So I'm gonna look, 1 inch of rust on a library, school library. Wanna grow exotic ferns, fire escapes? Then
That's fun. That's fun.
Oh, boy.
barbed
We
wire.
don't want to use that.
Things get smashed. Through bolt. All wood structures must have a through bolt. All wood structures have to have a through bolt with a plate. You see lag screws going into a wood structure, it's illegally attached. Got it? Through bolts. I want to end on cantilevers. Guys, what is a cantilever? A cantilever is, and I'll tell you the story, a cantilever is a story of a 150-pound woman dragging a 50-pound child, gets to this, she passes through the release arm, single action requiring no special knowledge, she pushes it away, it releases, cantilever starts to drop 2 to 3 feet per second, hits the ground and stays down, she self-evacuates. Got it? That's how it's supposed to work. This thing is perfectly balanced, it weighs 25 pounds more on the nose than it does on the tail, seesaw, you release it, she drops, hits the ground, stays down. Now, let me tell you how it's not supposed to work. No release arm, the thing's out of balance and they buy a chain and they put a chain on it, which you've seen. Whenever you see a chain, it's illegal, somebody has a fire escape that's out of balance. Same 150-pound woman coming down dragging a 50-pound child. She comes down, there's no release arm, she hits the pivot point, she walks out 3 steps, what happens? Nothing. She walks out 5 steps, what starts happening? She starts to come down a little bit. She walks out 1 or 2 more steps, what happens? She goes down 5 to 10 feet per second, slams the ground and does what to her?
Somersaults,
Ejects her, but she holds on because she falls back, screams and starts yelling because she's dragging her daughter with her. All of a sudden, now that it's hit the ground because her weight made it hit the ground, so she fell to the ground through this cantilever, right? So she held on, she walks down, the child is screaming, she's 150 pounds, she steps off the nose at the very bottom. She's holding the kid. Kid goes up how many feet? 12 to 14 feet. It either ejects the kid or the kid holds on. Kid held on this time, it's an 8-year-old kid, used to these kind of rides. She's downstairs looking up at the kid and tells the kid to do what? Jump. Will the kid jump 12 feet? No, so she runs around to the front of the house. She's in her pajamas and her nightgown and she's trying to get back into her building. What did she forget? Key. So she grabs a brick that she found there laying on the ground. She's about to smash the door. What happens? Fireman shows up. What are you doing? Goes, oh, my kid in the back. The fireman runs down with her back in the alleyway. Looks up at the kid and the fireman tells the kid to do what? Kid tells the fireman what? I won't jump for my mom, I won't jump for you. So all of a sudden the fireman runs back to his truck and gets what? The pole, grabs it, pulls it down, gets the kid out of there, steps on the fire escape and does what? Stands there holding that cantilever down. You've lost 1 man in the fight. So if you got a cantilever without a release arm and it doesn't drop 2 to 3 feet per second, you've got basically something that's going to take up one of your men. So these cantilevers, if they're not properly balanced, see the release arm open, yet it's not, see the chain? See the chain so whenever you see a chain, the thing is out of balance. So I'm going to go, things get smashed all the time. Trucks smash these things in alleyways, they're supposed to be 12 to 14 feet off the ground. If they get out of balance, guess what the trucks clip? That's what they clip whenever they're out of balance. I just want to get to the point, I want to show you the slidescape. Major rust. This is a 25-story hotel at Palmer Hotel in Chicago. 2 stories up. The staircase is not even connected. Major rust. 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch. Treads fallen. So this is all the components of a fire escape. It hasn't changed in 100 years. They're all the same. Got it? So let me do one last, and let me get you to the slidescape, and we'll kind of end it on that. Look at all that rust. You introduce water and air and ladders. Guys, slide ladders. You guys know the only accordion ladders, there's no other accordion ladders anywhere in the country. Only California has accordion ladders, a little bit out in San Francisco. But because these things, if they were icebound, they would never open. But only in California do you have accordion ladders. Nowhere else. Goosenecks. You know how many of these goosenecks are hurting firemen in the country? Because they're not properly attached?
On the re-roofing job?
On the re-roofing job, they just leave them there dangling. But during that 1-year inspection, what are you gonna get? So, see these cantilevers? If they're out of balance, how they stop pointing to the sky, that's a violation. You know how you fix that? 25 bucks, Home Depot, chain. What do? Tie the tail up to where? Anywhere. And put it horizontal so that, who doesn't write a violation? Because as soon as you clip that chain, what's gonna happen to it? She's gonna look like that. Got it? So if you see a chain, she's in violation already. This is us in Chicago trying to, dropping a major cantilever. Has a release arm in the wrong. So once it's released, you're gonna see what it looks like, 2 to 3 feet per second. So released, very violent, watch. 2 to 3 feet per second. That's how much weight. You're playing around with 3,000 to 5,000 pounds of weight on a seesaw. So when it comes down, you don't do this every day. This is once every 5 years you test these things. See how it wiggles? Now, just while we were doing that, this is a very busy alleyway. Guess what's coming down? A 14-foot cement truck. Now, this is what happens if the thing is not perfectly horizontal and these things are out of whack for any reason. This is how they come down. When big moving trucks and cement trucks, look how close they get to it. And now it's got the lock on it. So if it didn't have that lock and the wind was blowing it ever so, that's how these things. Now notice as it goes under the next one, notice the chain on it. So one is balanced correctly with a release arm, the other one has a chain on it. And if it didn't have that chain, it would be out of whack and the guy would run into it because he can't see it from his truck cab. This is us teaching a class in various cities, including Washington, D.C., and I asked them the same question. Who wrote the last violation in this room? Nobody raised their hands. So downtown walkarounds. We've got online on Farscape Academy. We've got downtown walkarounds of us walking around with these guys for you guys to watch. It's a 5-year program, guys, so we need to work with your association and plan for the next 3 to 5 years that you're going to slowly get into it. Identify one guy that's going to be the main guy, and every Farscape issue goes through that one guy. So everybody still has their areas, but every time you get a Farscape, that one guy basically helps that guy get it through. These are all so if you don't like Seattle's inspection, go to Tacoma online. They were in our class also, so they created their own inspection. And it's all, no more opinions, it's questions, yes, no questions for the structural engineer to sign. I told you about, in Boston, all they want us to say is to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief. And this is a state document. Now with the model cities, they're starting to adopt a confidence test to basically make the engineers more responsible. This might be helpful. The city of Lowell actually put out with their tax bill a request that said, hey, we're now looking to have copies of your certification. So they put it out with the tax bill. So if that helps as an idea, they put it out with the tax bill, saying that there's a code, you're supposed to be maintaining these, please provide us with a copy. Again, if you go to Portland Online, on the fire prevention, and you go to Firescape issues, if you do a Google search, Firescape issues, all this is ready to be downloaded online of what's going on. But when you read through this, you're gonna see 200 pounds per square foot load testing. Separation of, so there's all the, they basically started modeling it, and they did a code change in the state code that included this, that, the clarification and definitions. And they concluded in a confidence test, which is a checklist. Ready, guys? This is we're gonna conclude on this one as soon as I get to these slidescape. Exterior steel or wooden stair, or fire escape, or all of the above. Ready? Does this need to be examined? Needs to be examined? 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 It's in the balconies, right? We talking about, again, it all depends what code. Is it building code, fire code? But these are what the areas of refuge. Exterior, do they rot? Hotels, do they need to be examined? A lot of them are a mix of wood, cement, and steel. How about wood structures on the back of buildings that have staircases inside, porches that have staircases? They need to be examined, exposed to the weather. 25-year PT wood that's been there for 40 years. These need to be examined? How about these? How about these? Decks, remember Chicago, 27 people died on a deck collapse? Is that an exterior steel or wooden stair, balcony, bridge? How about handicap ramps? They need to be examined? Gotta think of the safety of the dogs. It's all about the dogs, guys. Piers, billboard signs. How about grain elevators and industrial complexes that have these staircases that you guys use in case you're fighting a fire? We love that code. It's all exterior steel or wooden stairs. Basically covers a lot. Oh, and we talked about the bridges, right? You know, the connecting bridges on hotels and hospitals, skyways, skywalks, right? Spirals, they need to be examined. They are means of egress. And guys, a 12-story slidescape. We're going to end it here. 12 stories. The fire escape, this is us on the roof with the Elizabeth Fire Department. And every floor has these two little red doors. And you open them up. And see this right here? We're up there. This is the slide. And it's a corkscrew. And you go 12 stories. And you come down here, and in this building over here, you take this immediate left hook turn and you go straight down a slide, and there's a metal door with a big paddle on it that your feet are supposed to smash, and it opens up this big metal door that was frozen shut when we examined it that day. And this is what you look into when you open up the door at every floor. Now, they don't give you a potato sack for you to jump into and slide down. This is, you either go head first, tail first, sideways, rolling like a ball. It's a one-way system, and it's part of their egress. This is an Art Deco building built in 1902 or 1903, and slidescapes was in the code until they took it out recently. Right? That's a slidescape. These are some of the slidescapes you guys have seen in certain places where they used to have it at schools. They used to have it in the military barracks. Slidescapes, it's a one-way system, but it's not a second means of egress. But there are still some buildings out there, and I found the only one, and that was in Elizabeth, 12-story building. And again, you guys got a lot of these bag ladders, right? These bag ladders are the ones that they sell on the internet, that you basically keep a bag in the closet, and then you throw it, you hook it onto your window, throw it out. This is not a second means of egress. This is a supplemental means of egress. Guys, two ways to get out of a building. One costs $2,000 to $4,000. The other one costs $2 to $4 million. Somebody mentioned they're putting in a brand new high-rise. Was it in LA? One of the things they should have in LA This is a system that's already been approved. It's a bag system for evacuation. And the second one is a $2 to $4 million unit that hangs on the top.
So if you live in a high-rise building.
I'm gonna show you just this one and end it and leave it on this one. This is a $2 to $4 million system that is not a second means of egress. It's a third means of egress. This is on a 20-story building in Israel. The guy built this right after 9/11. This is controlled by the fire department. No, the SAC was the one before that. I don't have to end on this one. This should be mandatory in a lot of high rises, so that in case you can't go down the building and you have to go to the roof, this is how you get out. One of these in the U.S. Now, the only reason you're going to use this is because you can't get people can't come down anymore past the 5th floor, so they go down to the 5th floor and everything is backing it out. Collapsible elevators are not going to put them in. We'll take people out. This is carrying 5 stations. $4 million. Again, this is an actual building in Israel. Multiple floor evacuation. Firemen stay there fighting the fire and they start evacuating people all day long. Now again, this is not how they get people out, this is when they can't get out for some reason. The elevators can't be used, the main stairways can't be used, this is how you get people out of the upper floors. This already got invented, already got approved here in the US, but there has been one building that has doing something. This would be a great addition. Third means of egress, not a second. This is a great supplemental means of egress for a lot of the high rises, and it's controlled solely by the fire department, not by anybody else. That's it, guys. We went from the dinosaurs of fire escapes to the highest tech. You only need $2 to $4 million a piece. That's it. But the guy's out of Israel, but he hasn't had much success here in the U.S. But thank you very much for the talk. I'll be around if anybody has any questions for me. And I'd love to get your cards if you want to get a copy of this video.